All right, I guess it's about time here. We got a decent crowd on Zoom. Got 22 people here. Can anybody tell me how many people we got in Lone Tree?
How about 13 and a judge? 14.
13 and a judge. Sounds good. We didn't beat our last meeting. We had 16 last time, so we got to work on that.
Yeah.
Well, I will start with a few announcements here. First off, our next meeting will be our September 10th program. It'll be on extreme weather photography. So if any of you fancy yourself as storm chasers or want to attempt it and do it safely, listen in to the program on September 10th and get the information you need. Also, a reminder. Say again?
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, I'll check with Mike, the presenter, and see if he's going to be in person or not, because I know he's local.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great if you could come in and be with you all.
Yeah.
Also, a reminder that our September competition got moved to Thursday instead of a Wednesday. That'll be September 25th. We got bumped by the Lone Tree Police Department, who is taking over Lone Tree Civic Center and all the rooms there. And I'll also remind you, I had this in the August newsletter, that September 15th through 19th is the annual Lightroom Virtual Summit. This is a free event. This is, I think, 6th or 7th year they've done it, I believe. It's guys like Dave Cross, Matt Kloskowski, and a bunch of other names you'll recognize in the Photoshop and Lightroom arena. It's a 5-day thing. You sign up for free. It's lightroomsummit.com. That link is in the August newsletter. If you pop over to our website and go check it out. I'll also pop in the chat here in a little bit. And each day they send you an email. They release videos staggered. So one at like 9 o'clock, and then 11, then 1, then 3. And you can view the video for 48 hours. So if they put out something at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you've got until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 days from there, to watch that video. It's a heck of a thing. They've got a bunch of presenters, I think 25 or more little classes that they do. Each of the videos run about 45 minutes or an hour. And they cover all kinds of things. You know, even if you're just starting out in Lightroom, they offer a free overview of Lightroom, about a half-hour thing, as I remember from last year, that they send to everybody before the event. And of course, each of their sessions each day are a little more specific. You know, I've been using Lightroom since version 2, and there's always something new that I pick up because these guys are covering, you know, the new tools, the AI tools, you know, anything that's new and fresh in Lightroom. Oh, and also I'll mention this is primarily Lightroom Classic. They do touch on a little bit about the cloud, and they do have a class on Lightroom Mobile, but this is primarily Lightroom Classic. And one of the benefits of it is if you spend $99 for their VIP pass, you get unlimited access to the videos forever. So if you want to, you know, have that resource available to you, because, you know, maybe a couple months from now you'll be doing something different, you'll need to know about it, well, you could have that available for a fairly low cost. So it's a heck of an event. Check out the website. And let me just pop it in. So for any of you people on Zoom, that link is in the chat. And like I said, in our August newsletter, I've got a link in there to talk about it. But go check it out. Check out the types of classes they have, the instructors that they have. Whether you're new to Lightroom or well on your journey, it's a heck of a resource. It's a heck of a good program. So, the other thing I'll touch on is I've heard that fall color is happening early this year. Has anybody been out looking for fall color yet?
I was out hiking today, but there was no fall color.
Right.
At least we were up to about 9,000 feet, so might be higher than that.
Right, right. Yeah, that's the thing. That it always happens in the higher elevations first. But so I know some people may, you know, have plans for later in September, early October, things like that. You may need to shift that a little bit. One resource that I've used in the past is to go look at the highway cams, the cameras they have out on the interstates and the state roads and stuff. If you go to cotrip.org, coloradotrip.org, you can access all kinds of cameras that are, on state roads, on the highways. When you go there, if you go look for the cameras and then go to the map and you turn on the icons for the cameras, then you can just basically figure out, I'm going up to Breckenridge, let's see what cameras are around here and take a look at each one of them. And granted, they don't have the best view, but you might get an idea of whether color is turning there or not, because it shows the sides of the hills and mountains, and it shows if there's a road next to a river or something like that, you get to see the foliage. So that can kind of help you too. Yeah, David, the fall foliage map, I usually put that in the newsletter. I've got a plan to put it in September 1. So, there is a fall foliage map that's fairly popular and fairly accurate, at least from what I've seen. But we have a couple of guests here. Do we have any guests in the room?
We do, Carl. We have one guest and one new member.
Awesome. The new member is
Diane.
And Diane, would you like to say hi to us? Tell us what kind of photography you do, things like that?
I didn't have anything prepared. No, I'm just new. I'm just learning to use an expensive camera and Lightroom is a real challenge. Yeah, so.
Well, good. Well, welcome to the gang. And our guest is
Aaron, who is to Diane's left here.
Hello. Well, yeah, my name is Aaron. I use a Canon 5D Mark IV. I'm taking photos for like eight years-ish. Just moved to Denver. I like to take street photography when I can, and just like landscape, outdoor stuff.
nice. Well, welcome to you both. Thank you for joining us. And on Zoom, Elizabeth, Beth, just real quick, if you would say how you found us and type.
Yeah, I was just looking for a club around here, and I thought it might be nice to go a little bit further north, closer to Denver. Basically, I use a Canon RP. I use Capture One, and I basically do nature photography. So pretty much.
Okay. Well, you'll fit in well with the crowd here because nature is what a lot of the people do.
Okay.
And I also see Alandria. Could you unmute and same questions for you, please?
Yeah, hi. I am as amateur as it gets. Just starting out, and just one of my friends is a member of the club who recommended it, so I'm just trying to kind of learn, hopefully, from those of you who have a lot more experience.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, thank you, Jordan, for bringing Alandria in. We appreciate that. And yeah, it's no matter what your experience level is, we've got a whole bunch of educational material. We've been recording our meetings for the past 5 years, ever since 2020. So on our website and on our YouTube channel, you can access all of those. There's a lot of educational material there too. But also, when you come and join in person, you get to shake hands with other people and pick their brains a little bit. And we also have occasionally we have a fifth Wednesday. There's a couple of them during the year that we take advantage of, and there's one coming up in October, and hopefully we can have a little meet and greet. The executive board talked about it a bit, and we're trying to put together a kind of a tech talk kind of night where people will come together and help each other understand their cameras, understand camera functions, and stuff like that. And as long as I have a big crowd here, how many of you think that that night would also maybe be good to take, let's say, a half hour or so, to have kind of a little swap meet. Would that interest anybody?
That would be cool.
Got plenty of stuff.
That'd be really cool. Yeah.
Got an actual garage? No, I mean.
Well, maybe we'll limit everybody to one bag full. But yeah, if you've got, yeah, Rick, you got a lot of stuff. That's good. And you can help out 2 or 3 people then.
I've been trying to get rid of my land too for like, I don't know, 20 years. So this might be a good opportunity.
There you go. Yeah, I'm sure, a lot of us have collected things that, we thought we could use and we don't, or something like that. So perhaps we could gift it to another club member or somebody who can make use of it. So I know myself, I've got a big old Bogan tripod with a big fat head on it that I don't carry anymore. So I'm sure everybody else has a little bit of something. So maybe we'll include that too. We'll have it have a little swap meet going on. That'd be cool. Now, of course, this would be at Lone Tree only. We can't do a swap meet over Zoom.
Carl, you're flying in for this one?
Say again?
You're flying in person for this one, or drive, whatever? Meet here? With your tripod?
I don't know. We'll have to see about that. That's a good definite maybe. So anyways, thank you for all your input, and so I think I will pursue that. We got one more. Jeff, I see you logged into Zoom here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just watching. I'm an interested person.
Right. Yeah, you requested an invitation here and said that you know John Mumford, so.
Right.
Good. All right. May we ask what kind of shooting that you do or what you shoot with?
I've got a Nikon Z8 and a variety of things. A lot of landscape, I guess. Some portraits, some architecture. But no animals, really.
Okay.
I think mostly landscape.
Well, it sounds like a good variety of stuff.
Yeah, keeps me interested.
Right. Well, welcome to our happy little gang here. Hope you enjoy this evening.
Thanks for having me on.
Sure. All right, let's get to the whole reason that we all gathered here anyways. We have a competition tonight. Our subject matter is patterns in nature. We were looking for an image that depicts patterns created by nature, either color, shape, light, or shadow. Most, if not all, patterns have repetition, but not all repetitions form a pattern. And of course, we do not allow photo editing, Photoshop made patterns. We're looking for natural images that have a pattern in them. So we have for our judge this evening, Joe Klocek. Joe is presented to us many years ago, 2019, 2020 was last time. And this is his first time manning the judge's chair. We're glad to have you, Joe. Joe's worked in the photographic industry as a photographer, salesman, and instructor since 2005. Today, he teaches courses on a variety of topics, including macro, wildlife, exposure theory, videography, and studio lighting. In the past few years, he's been a guest speaker for photographic societies and travel expositions. He lives in Denver with his wife, son, and an unmanageable book collection. You can find him at the Park Meadows store for Mike's Camera. And Joe also runs a website called thefstopshere.org. And Joe, would you like to say a little bit about your website and maybe something about your judging style?
Sure. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I didn't know if I was still muted or not.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Gosh, what do you want me to say? I'm Joe. You ever have like somebody reads like your bio, or like looks at your resume or CV, and like here's all these things, and it all looks like you meant for any of this to happen, right? Like it's just bizarre. No, I now I need to update that. I'm realizing. I need to update that. I now run my business full time, partnering with like 7 or 8 different retailers, teaching classes, doing workshops. I just got back from an astrophotography workshop this last weekend in Canyonlands. Bunches of stuff, the really like big experience things you can find. If it says it's a class and it's taught by a guy named Joe on the Mike's Camera website, it's me. I'm the only Joe I know of in the company. So fun things. I've got Photoshop and there's stuff, people ask about them. I can talk. What's other fun stuff that I've got? If you're looking for funny photography themed shirts, I've got them on my website. That was the thing that I launched this summer. So that's a fun one. And judging style, I'm not sure that there's a style for that. Someone if you didn't hear, someone in the room said harsh. And the thing is, like, I teach classes where we do 3-part workshops, and then like there's an image review portion. So like we review images a lot. And in like an instructional thing, it's like, don't be harsh, right? Everything needs to be actionable or constructive. So I hope I do that all right. I don't know. I won't go long. How about that? That's a good goal. We'll do that. Back to you in the studio, Carl.
Carl left us?
Have we been abandoned?
What do you want to tell us, or can you tell us about the expo coming up?
Let's talk about the expo. I'm going to be there. I'm running a studio for 2 days and I'm presenting twice. It's the first time that we're doing this. So for people in the greater Denver area, there's going to be this big expo at one of the centers at DU. What are they calling it? The Focus Expo or something like that? I forgot its name. It's actually looking really good. Like, they're getting legit people from every major manufacturer. We've got spaces on 2 different floors of this building, and it's all people talking about photography. The presentations look really good and are mostly agnostic, right? So like the guy who's like, there's this guy from Nikon that I've known him for 20 years named Paul Van Allen. I think that he came with the building with Nikon, I'm pretty sure, right? And he's talking about 2 different subjects. I think one of them is astrophotography. There's almost nothing he's talking about is like, you must own a Nikon, right? Which is great. Christy Odom's going to be there. She does some amazing like wildlife and conservation work in photography. She's presenting a couple times. Like, there's a lot of people there who are there's good people to know, and also like really, really smart. So I think it's going to be a really fun show. There's lots going on, lots to do. And if you just show up and meet the people at the booth for like the brands that you use, you'll still get a ton out of it. You really will. Are they going to be selling stuff? Well, of course they are, right? But like, if you just showed up, spent no money, watched some presentations, right? You're going to get a lot out of it. So they're doing, there's 2 things. There are longer lectures that are looking amazing. To get into those, you have to pay for a ticket. I think it's $100 for 1 day or $150 for 2. But if you come and you just watch the shorter lectures, which are the mini lectures, and you just go to the tables and meet people, that's totally free. They ask you to register because I think they're trying to manage the door count, etc. But yeah, that general admission is free. It was not clear to me, and I've been on 2 phone calls with the guy who's organizing it. But it's looking like it's going to be really fun, and they want to make it like a thing that they do around. Please do, and stop by the studio. I'm just going to be looking for people to talk to. They've shoved me in a corner. Yeah, the presentations, like the hour-long presentations, they're going to be for real. I know personally about half the people who are presenting. And there's not a one of them that doesn't really have something that's useful to talk about for an hour. Yeah. So no, it's going to be a really good time. So that's going to be cool. So I'm going to be presenting once on essentials of posing and once on essentials of multi-light placement in a studio. So.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
So I guess I would ask Joe if you would read the name of the photo, because Carl usually does that, and we'll show up.
Okay.
in the big corner.
Whatever you need.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. It's called Prickly Cone. So when we think about impact in an image, we think a lot about contrast. I think I'm going to talk about that a lot. There's multiple layers of contrast when you look at composition, and color contrast is a really important one. And there's a really important concept inside of color theory, which is that you need deep black and shadow for color saturation to show up, right? If you have all bright and airy and no like shadows, you actually lose saturation. It's a key component of color theory and then in editing. So black background is a brilliant choice. I love the sharpness. I love the detail. I love the black background. I love the color richness out of this. So I think that this hits every technical marker that I really enjoy seeing in a great image. So then you ask yourself, okay, that looks really beautiful. Is there anything that we would change about it, right? Because anything to elevate it. And I really don't know that there's much about it other than it's entirely flat to the plane, right? Losing a smidge of three-dimensionality as opposed to something that's coming towards you or away from you. God, I really like this shot. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's technically excellent. And I think it's beautiful. So I'm going to go 9. Oh, I think we've got Carl. Hey, all right.
Yes, we do. Yay! All right, so this is I Spy with My Little Eye, an F.
Which is very fun. This is technically very well done. You hit the depth of field necessary for having a tree trunk, which of course is wrapping around and choosing at different distances. So that's quite appropriate. This is an image where to get everything that you want us to understand, we have to see the title. And title introduces a piece of work, of course. And so there's kind of a camouflage aspect, like you take pictures of animals in the wild and you want to sometimes incorporate camouflage, which makes the subject harder to see in order to tell the story, right? And I think about that when I'm viewing this. This is a very clever find. It's a very clever moment. I think it's technically very well done. I think it's about as contrasty as I would really aim for. The question is, with the subject matter, does it have the impact of something? Does it have enormous impact? And I don't know. But on the other hand, Carl said something when we were speaking on the phone yesterday, that sometimes a great photograph is the one that we remember the next day or the next week. And honestly, this is fun. And photography, if nothing else, should be fun. So I don't think I would crop it more. I don't think I would shoot it differently. I don't think the color temperature should change. I don't think it should be in black and white. I think that it's really nice the way that it is. It's a 10.
This is the ripple effect.
Okay. So we talk about something in composition, which is using space efficiently. And normally that means laying things out on a diagonal, or of course, cropping into a different shape. So I think the crop is quite appropriate for this. Gosh, we've got a bunch of good ones right in a row, don't we? The texturing in this is amazing. The detail in it is amazing. I think the find is also really good. And there's kind of a great moment that's happening with it at the same time. So one of like the judging criteria is usually this idea of style, right? Something about the way that you present something. And initially I was like, oh man, I think the yellows and oranges should be punchier in the edit. But looking at it, I think there's an almost a little bit subdued or subtle effect around the entirety of the image. I think the whole thing works. I think it just works really, really well. It's the depth of field I'm looking for. It's the focus that I'm looking for at the place that I'm looking for it in. And I think it's gorgeous. I think it's a 10. I love it. There's nothing I would change.
It's the sprouting wings.
Everything we said before about black background still holds true, right? Which is wonderful. The focus is actually beautiful on this. I think your color rendering is there's this fine line of, all right, now we're in realism color rendering. Do we want to go punchier? I think you could have gone punchier. I think you just needed to crop it in a little bit more. I understand that you're telling this story that is isolation, which requires a little bit of space, but I don't know that this shot is benefited as much from that as getting in closer and letting me see the exquisite detail in the middle of the flower. So I'm usually a fan of hit me in the face with something. Let me really see it and really experience this thing. And getting in closer, I think, helps. So I think the used negative space inside of the image isn't necessarily the best rendering of the image. It's technically excellent. We're seeing a lot of really technically excellent images, but I think that it could be more impactful if you chose a little bit more for me what I should be looking at. And so I'm going to go 8.
I'm liking this winter morning.
Yeah, this is excellent. So there's this concept that I started thinking about, gosh, over a decade ago, about how do we inform the viewer that this is the edge of the photograph? Like, where should it end? And if I can place something terminating in a corner, that's a very clear sign that this is the end of the photograph. There's nothing more that you really need to see about it. And this does that, I think, very well. The color is beautiful. I think your exposure is dead on for dealing with really bright highlights. So that's controlled really, really well. I love the depth of field control placed into the image, which I think is just great. Do I love the shape of the image itself? This one's really hard because I look at it and I wish the bottom right branch terminated into the corner as perfectly as the top left. And so a shifting of the camera slightly rightward would perfectly align the corners or change the crop of the image itself in some way. Those two solve kind of the same problem. This is a gorgeous image. It's technically excellent. The impact is very, very high. I think the presentation of it in the choice of the shape, the crop, and the position of the camera, I mean, I'm talking slight shift. If there was such a thing as 9.5, I would do it, but I have to do a 9 because of the corner alignment. But gosh, this is great.
This is nature's stained glass.
Okay. So I literally taught a lecture last night for a workshop I'm doing tomorrow, not tomorrow, on Sunday, on studio lighting. And I told the group there that I have never yet met a photographer who's worked for any real period of time in lighting subjects who's not obsessed with backlighting, ever. Not in 20 years, because it's so beautiful. Shooting backlit flowers is a great position. It's a gorgeous position. So choosing the position, wonderful. Working with a trio of flowers as your foreground, wonderful. I think your color is perfectly accurate. I really think that that's lovely. And getting sharp shadows coming through, really nice position. I wish your background was more blurred, right? Whether that is an actual depth of field management at the moment of shooting, or whether that is controlling lens blur effects in Lightroom. There's a number of ways to approach it, but I think your background is too sharp because it's detracting from what I really want to see, and that is the trio of flowers. So the tree in the background, the bare tree that's back there, I just want it more blurred because I find that to be distracting from the foreground. You've found a great position as subject shooting up at the flower. You have chosen a great position for being backlit. I think your color rendition is beautiful off of it. Blur your background a little bit more at the moment of shooting would elevate this. Remember, we want a great composition is where you put into the frame only what needs to be there to tell the story, and you purposefully either leave out or obliterate everything else. So you've got a great approach happening here, but because of a background distraction, I have to go 7. Actually, can I
Orange.
change that? 8. 8,
Oops.
not 7.
Okay.
Thank you.
And this is orange wheel.
I love this. This is deceptively difficult to do. I've done work with product photographers as a lighting designer, and this is deceptively difficult to pull off. And I love it. I adore it because it perfectly captures the texture, which of course is the point of tonight's competition. But it's really the white background that I think makes the whole image. Going white background, really clean, I think is the right way to show this off. One thing that I really look for, I should have mentioned this before, like how do you judge? And I didn't say this, so surprise. I also kind of look for how difficult is it to achieve something that matters to me, even though I guess technically maybe it shouldn't because it doesn't actually impact for anybody else. But this is exactly flat to the plane, right? And white background, and your actual detail is perfect coming off of it. So all of that looks really, really wonderful. Is it a high impact subject? I don't know that it is, but I think that there's a place where we say, hey, Andy Warhol, produced some of his best work with subject matter that you wouldn't give a second thought to. And that's the idea of, I'm a photographer. I'm going to show beauty in the world that you don't look at. And I'm also a sucker for a good macro image. It's a 10.
Discovering Mothman.
Very, very, very well done. I mean, yeah, really well done. Incredible detail control, incredible background control at the same time. That's a nice trick to pull off, and very well noise controlled, which I adore. This is so stinking cool. Technically incredibly well executed. I look at it and I think that what you've done is really go deep into this one subject. And I think it's technically excellent. I really, really do. Is it? I think that it's, we're shooting straight on, so you've got that and it's nice and flat. So there's a matter of I'm documenting and it's really incredibly well shot. But is there a point of view on the subject? Or is there a way to showcase this at an elevated level of creativity? Or is it a subject matter that's going to completely grab my attention? I'm not convinced on those points, but I am convinced that this is incredibly well shot. So gosh, there's some really great talent in this group. You all are amazing. This is very well done. I think that something that took this into a level of creativity, either in the edit or from the point of view on the subject, could have taken this up into another level of elevation, but I'm still going to go 9. It's really well done.
And the winner for the longest title of the night is Potentially Pleasing Portrait of a Pinecone Pattern.
Extra points for the title. First of all, our first black and white, and I'm so glad to see a black and white. We need more of these to show the sheer variety of our art form because they're so nice. Your focus is where I would want it to be. Your exposure control is exactly what I'd want it to be, which is great. You have a lot of nice control over texturing inside of the image. Cropping into a square, I think, works. It's also something we do in a lot of portraiture. I think your contrast could be higher. One thing to remember in black and whites is that you can punch your contrast a lot farther than you can in color. So I think you could actually use curves and take your dark values even slightly darker. Not like going crazy, but I think you have latitude there, right? Or if you work in Photoshop or C1, they have levels tools. This is going to total tangent. This is going to drive me nuts forever. Why Lightroom does not actually have a levels tool. I know you can do the same thing in curves. I'm aware. It would just be nice. But I think you could actually drop black point or take curves level down on the dark end in order to punch a little bit of contrast into it. And I think it would be slightly more impactful there. But I'm so glad we've got a nice black and white that just feels nice and rich and textured. So it's a 9.
Autumn pond ripples.
So nice deep black, that's essential for the color. Really interesting color. You found great pattern. I think it's shot at a level of technical excellence. At this point, hey, you know what? We're all human beings. We all have biases. I don't like abstract art. I don't like abstract art. And you take a look at this, there's somebody out here on this call, and this is your photograph. And I think that your technical level of going after this is amazing. I think you did a great job at that. I think that you pulled off a piece of art that there are many great viewers for who are going to love it. I'm not one of those. And you have to remember, that in the end, I'm just a doofus who, talks about shooting pictures of stars and sells t-shirts, right? Like I'm not, an end all be all, but in anything. And when I say that I don't grab on to abstract imagery and appreciate it, that's a me problem in the end. All right. But I think that you did an amazing job executing your vision, which is wonderful. I can't go higher than an 8. And it's just because I struggle with abstract and anchoring onto it and seeing it as a piece of art that I'm going to have a place to start approaching it and appreciating it. And I apologize, but that's me.
Wind and water, nature's sculptor.
I was literally in Canyonlands like 48 hours ago. And no more like 56 hours ago. And boy, oh boy, yes, completely. Amazing pattern. You found a great place. You found a great position for the subject matter. You used the frame really well. Color is accurate, right, to that region, right? So taking a look at this saying, hey, I'm not going to do some kind of color saturation bump because I'm aiming for accuracy for the space. I respect it. I believe looking at, and I've got to go off of the main LRC screen that I'm looking at. I think you need more contrast, especially in the shadows, but I think also in your highlights. Make sure you're stretching your entire histogram all the way from left value to right value, and you could bring in the points on curves in order to do that, right? Your anchoring points at 0, 0, 0, and 255 at 255. But I think you've got room for punching contrast and not necessarily touching like a dehaze or a saturation. Because I want to see more punch inside of the image, in the dark areas of the sky, in the darker values inside of the actual stone. That's an editing thing, which is important, right? It's essential for presenting a final product of your art. But gosh, it's beautiful. Your positioning's just spot on. And also, nice job ordering in the clouds. A lot of people forget to do that. It's a 9.
Striped serape on desert runway.
I was shooting sunset at Canyonlands on Saturday, and we got there and it rained on us the whole time. And then a giant orange glow erupted for about 2.5 minutes as we shot. And so to the person who shot this, I know how you felt when the light did that. And it's the most magical feeling in the world because you're shooting and you're thinking, I may never get this lucky in my life again, right? As landscape photographers, We can only plan 90% of our shots, but luck favors the prepared. Your color's wonderful. Your sharpness is wonderful. It's impactful. It is impactful. I would have shot this the exact same way. No notes. It's a 10.
All right, and Bob, after this, we'll get the 9s and 10s and talk to the makers who shot all these beautiful images. This one is Tower of Time.
This is just a beautiful place, isn't it? Like, wow. Really, really lovely. Your focus, your depth of field, your white balance, all amazing. I think you need more contrast. Contrast in color, contrast in the overall brightness values on the image, because we can hit people with this, I think, harder, right? You can really make this image, you know, as the kids say, slap. You really can. And I think you're just missing 1 or 2 very easy image editing tricks, like super easy to be able to do. It's a dehaze slider, contrast bump of some form. Take a look at it. And I think there's some color saturation you could push a little bit farther inside of it. So 3 things that are worth like playing around with, but there's an impact level that you can rise up to with this. I also think you could actually either shoot it more telephoto or crop a little bit to make the prominent structures in the front a little bit larger in the frame. I want large foreground objects inside of landscape to get a sense of scale. And we're missing a small amount of scale. That's a minor thing, right? So there's a couple very small pieces that are like, I can add to the overall impact of this image. But gosh, it's beautiful. And all of the moving pieces are there, right? Like there's nothing about this where we say, hey, you messed up really in shooting this. No, you didn't. It's great. I think there's some presentation things that are worth examining. So I'm going to go an 8, but it's a very nice piece of work.
All right, so Joe, you can take a little breather, and we'll go through these 9 or 10 images here, since you're giving away 9s and 10s because we are so darn good. This one, Prickly Cone. This is from Steve McCulloch.
Yeah, that sits in my office, and I was looking at it, and I realized the color contrast was really interesting. And I took a picture with the white wall background, and Kevin said, no, you should do that in black. And so I did, and that also has a backlight. So there's a little flashlight for backlight, and the front light is the iPhone flash, which only works when you're close up. And yeah, it turned out pretty well. Kind of, I just really, mostly I like the color contrast, but the pattern of, I've always liked the spines in cactus, and that pattern is a favorite. Very nice.
That's a nice shot, Steve. I Spy with My Little Eye. An F is from Cecilia Zapata.
Hello, everyone. Joe, thank you so much for the comments. This was a fun find. It was in the mountains near Colorado Springs. I was up there for a women's retreat this weekend, and we had some free time, and I took my camera and just started walking out there, hoping I didn't run into a bear or anything like that, and found this. But thank you for your comments.
Very cool. The Ripple Effect is from Barbara Masonville.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate your comments. I really struggled with this image on the crop, so I really appreciate what you said about it. It was hard for me to compose that it looked good when I was trying to capture it in camera, and then when I got it home, again, I flipped it, I spun it, I did all kinds of things, and I came up with this one. So I really appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Nice shot, Barbara. I'm Liking This Winter Morning. It's from Jordan McCulloch.
So that was in Point Lobos in Monterey. We were in the national park out there, or the state park out there, walking around. So a lot of the trees by the water had a lot of that growing moss out there. It's it's kind of the first time where I've done like a more square-ish crop on there. So, but yeah, that was beautiful. It's like some of the trees you walk under for these guys. So.
This is Orange Wheel from Laura Blake. And Laura popped into the chat and said, thank you for the kind words. I used a light table to backlight the orange. I could see through the orange, and that was exactly what I was hoping for. Discovering Mothman is from Erin Alfinger.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Joe. Truth be told, I'm about as green a macro photographer as they come. It's a bit serendipitous because I tried macro photography on for size almost exactly 3 years ago in one of the classes that you led at the Denver Botanical Gardens through Mike's camera. And I actually like looked it up before class, and sure enough, you're copied on all the emails about it. And I took a rented lens and at the time my little crop sensor camera, and I had a great time. And I knew that I really like close-up imagery, but I never really picked it up in as far as like using a macro lens until about 3 weeks ago. I on the fly just ordered one and started playing around with it. This was taken in Bar Harbor near Acadia National Park up in Maine. And I was really just enjoying like the pattern on the bottom of the flower and taking photos of a bunch of those and kind of the backs of them when this moth just like happened to land on one. So it's a bit of luck, but I just thought it was a funny story that the only prior experience I'd really had with macro was one of your classes.
I love that. That's fantastic, Erin.
Thanks so much.
The potentially pleasing portrait of a pine cone pattern is from Steve Kearns. And I guess he's not on this evening, unfortunately. He didn't leave any notes about the image, so we can all just assume how he did it. Wind and Water, Nature's Sculptor. This is from Kevin McCulloch.
Yeah, so this was at the Wave in Arizona, and Jordan had been telling me about this place and got very lucky on her second permit application to get pulled for it. So yeah, we started super early in the morning, and it's a really beautiful spot. It's probably one of the few like permit hikes that we've done, and yeah, definitely a core memory. So the clouds, we had some rain and things that came through that really helped things pop too. So it's good. And thank you for all the nice words.
Hat trick in the first section.
It's a nice shot, Kevin. And Striped Serape on Desert Runway is from Terry Hanford.
This was taken in the Bisty wilderness area down in New Mexico. Yeah, I was with a group. We were going out for some night photography, and the sunset was just incredible. So it was sort of the light came across and it hit this, and I was able to capture it. So very happy with it. Also, I would just like to thank you for all the constructive feedback you're giving everyone tonight. Much appreciated.
Yes, thank you, Terry. And I will echo that sentiment also. And we're getting a lot of great information about all these images. All right, we're going back to, there we go, Rings of Teeth.
So when I teach composition classes, I never talk about rule of thirds, ever. Lots of reasons why I won't get into right now, just because, you know, we're judging. But there are some times where putting a subject in the middle of the frame is so obviously the right thing to do that we shouldn't talk ourselves out of it, right? Yeah, put the center of this right in the middle of the frame and take a picture. Yeah, that's the right way to do it. And yeah, you understood the assignment. Perfect. I love that. The subject matter is great. You also kept it flat to the plane, so we have equivalent depth of field throughout the image. I think that's exactly the right way to approach it. So boom, boom, boom. All of that looks really, really good. I think your depth of field is good. Your exposure, could be like a third of a stop brighter, nothing significant, nothing really significant. What I'm missing out of this is saying it's rings of teeth, right? It looks dangerous. The title's dangerous. But I don't get an extra sense from your treatment of the subject matter post-shooting that there's a way of presenting that. Have you looked at this as a black and white? Have you looked at something that adds contrast potentially to it, or something with the color rendition that actually takes this and says, me as the photographer, I want you to see my point of view on the subject matter, right? Think of any subject matter at all, and what you'll realize, or think of any story at all, and you realize that there's a way of telling that story as a comedy or as a drama, right? And it has to do with the interpretation from the artist. I think that what we've got here is the documenting of the image at a technically very good level, right? Yeah, it could be a smidge, like a third of a stop brighter or whatever, right? But like, I would call that very, very good technique. What I want to see is, if you're calling this rings of teeth, if the idea is I want to show something in nature that feels dangerous to look at and get close to it and examine it, show me that in some way of your presentation of the image. The one thing that's done that does that is, notice that there's no place where the eye can leave the subject. We literally can't leave it when we look at the image. That is a correct crop. That is correct. That is the right way to approach it. And so I think not letting the eye escape. It's the very same concept that when you watch the last third of Jaws, at no point can you see land in the background, right? It's the same concept. Don't give me a way out of this image. That was the smart move. I think finding a way, and my initial thought is black and white, but a way in your post work to make this seem even more of a dramatic image, I think would be a good approach to it. So it's a 9.
This is saguaro, partly cloudy.
I was doing an astrophotography workshop this past weekend, and it was cloudy every night. So we ended up doing sunrise and sunset. So I'm like, man, I would have killed this weekend for this amount of cloud cover. I really, really would have. Using the clouds and letting us peek through them, this is a good point of view of the subject. I like this. We always think about foreground subject matter when we're doing night sky imagery. This is a great foreground subject matter. Nice going. I like it. The stars, yep, you nailed focus on that. Very, very nice. I really don't like the orange. I really don't. It draws me out of the beauty of the image, personally. And I don't know if maybe like, hey, we need to look at natural night filters or night sky filters. If it's not like it's probably not a light pollution thing, right? Because we see the stars. So it's probably more like looking at night sky filters in order to do a color correction. The orange is taking it away from me. And I think it's also taking the sky in the background and kind of muddying it a little bit. I'd like the sky to be either totally black or even better, slightly blue. And we're losing a little bit of that from a color shift. And so this is what's tough. It's like, if there was something that's like, hey, no, there was like a fire and it really was orange. I don't have a way of knowing that, right? So like I could be totally off on that. But the color temperature from the image is distracting me from an amazing subject, right? Shot really well. Like Milky Way Galaxy, it's not the hardest subject matter to shoot, right? But it takes some knowledge, right? And they're impactful images, right? This is not Milky Way, it's just stars. Am I seeing? No, I don't see Milky Way. It's night sky. Those are impactful images, and I'm being distracted from that by the color temperature, and I shouldn't be. Or if I am distracted through color temperature, it should be for a reason that I understand visually, which I don't in this case. I have to go for an 8 because of the distraction, but the subject matter is so powerful that I'm like, yeah, this is still a really nice shot.
Symphony in blue.
I think going into a square crop fits with the subject matter pretty much, because we have objects in the bottom left corner of the top right that define the edges. I'm kind of cool with it. If it's going to be symphony in blue, I want the blue to hit me a little bit harder. So I'm looking at it going, all right, your focus is good, your exposure is good, your contrast is good, but one aspect, if it's like, hey, the thing that makes this image sing, the thing that's impactful, like I want to know what you're excited about as a photographer. If you're excited about it and you show me you're excited about it, I want to see it because I'll be excited about it, right? And if the thing is, what's exciting me is the blue, I want to see the blue. And I'm noticing I've got two computers in front of me, right? And they're showing a wildly different amount of blue on them. I think that we're seeing a bump in the brightness and contrast through Zoom, because the one that's brighter and more contrasty is the one on Zoom, right? I take a look at the original image, and honestly, I want it to be the one that's on Zoom, which means I know that the edit there is extant, right? You can get to it. So if it turns out that no, Zoom is super accurate and right, it's the other way around, then you can just throw away whatever I say, right? But I want to see the big impactful blues from Zoom, and I don't see it on the original monitor. All right. So I think that we're missing a thing. And then I know it's not technically an abstract, but I'm not seeing where my eye should fall, right? The point of composition, the whole point, the whole idea of good composition is one thing: to inform the viewer about what's important. That's it. Everything else is just fluff that we put on top. But composition is tell the viewer what to look at, what matters. And I don't see that here, right? Out of it. And if it is supposed to be the color, then the color needs to absolutely, Tom and Jerry style, hit me over the head. I've got to go to a 7 here. And it's because there's like, hey, Joe has trouble with abstract, right? And just like, okay, that's like a Joe thing, and you can just disregard that. And the other one is, I think the color just needs to be bolder, which I think is within your power to be able to do.
Desert stars.
Your focus is immaculate. Your noise control is very good as well. I really like that. I'm taking a look at it, and I just think the subject matter needs to be more impactful. Like what we've got is a technically very well executed image, but I think the presentation of it isn't grabbing me nearly as much as I really want it to, right? And I don't know if it's a contrast thing. Your darks go to a pretty dark level. Your bright values maybe are terminating in like the 220s, 230s. So I think you've got a little bit of room in the bright area. Your color's not hitting me over the head with the pinks and oranges. Does it need to? I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer. I don't know if the answer is, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, there's an image that's going to be coming up that's severely cropped and it's very narrow, and going to a really non-traditional crop might be the answer, or maybe coming in closer. I work very regularly with a guy named Scott Doherty. We teach a lot of classes together. And he just says, you know what, in the end, odd numbers of things are more interesting than even numbers of things. And coming into like where like it's like we've got basically, 5 and then, I don't know, 2 halves or something like that of these. And if we get to a place where we see 3 or exactly 5 and you force asymmetry into it, that might be the answer. I'm not sure I know. Or maybe it's coming in really closer. But I think the presentation on the subject matter could just hit harder on this particular image. So I'm going to go to an 8.
Along the edge.
God, I love this. We never do side lighting in portraiture, ever. We don't do it. We usually don't do side lighting in macro. But side lighting in landscape and in architecture is a thing of beauty. This is gorgeous. It black and white, I said it earlier, black and white handles high contrast better than color. So if we've got an image that's super high contrast, as side lighting is, right, it's going to look good in black and white. So going black and white was absolutely the appropriate call. The background blur is exactly right. I think the crop is also exactly right. Going really wide, going to basically a 16:9 shape, fits the subject matter, I think, really well. And it's impactful. This has an Ansel Adams feel to it with the impact of it being black and white. Almost like you look at his work and you say black and white was the point. Like you look at his work and you think he would have shot black and white even if color was around. Sometimes I think. And this feels that way. Like this was always meant. I feel looking at this like I would travel here and it would be actually just black and white section of the world, right? It fits that mood. So the presentation of the subject matter fits the subject matter. And that is an elevation. No notes, it's a 10.
Webs of water.
I love your background. Like this is like I spend so much time. I do a lot of image reviews in classes, and I spend so much time just hammering in, clean up your background. That when I see someone nail it, I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Your background is exactly right. Okay, your focus is exactly right. It's a very subdued color palette, but I think it works, right? Because there's that presentation aspect to it. I just think you need to crop in more. You've got a lot of grass here or whatever that plant, is it a plant? It looks like a plant, that I just don't need to see. And I don't need to see more of the background on the side, right? I want to see the webs more. I want to see the detail you nailed on the water droplets because you did nail it. You did. I want to see it closer. This one needs to be cropped. And I would say pretty substantially, right? If we say, oh, but I love the way that we've got spider webs near the bottom all the way to the top. And yeah, that's cool. But if you, think about it like a Mandelbrot set, where like, if I come in closer, I get just as much enjoyment out of the image. I don't lose anything when it comes to this type of patterning. Come in, I think, relatively significantly into the middle 25 or 30%, to 25, 30, 33% of the frame. Really hit me with the spider webs, and I think you're there. So I think it's an 8.
A colorful farewell to the summer.
So in the batch of images that Carl sent me, this was the very first one. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, are they all going to be this good? This is going to be really hard. One of the things that's very difficult to teach people in the studio is to not be afraid of shadows. It's hard to get photographers, but I could light it and it could be properly exposed. If you think about everything being properly exposed in a histogram, it's just a smushed straight line in the very middle. And that's super boring. So a sign of a confident photographer, the sign of a confident photographer is when you're just comfortable with really dark areas and shadows. That's the sign. It's one of the shibboleths I look for, right? In saying somebody is proficient in this craft. So saying nice light in the middle, and I'm going super dark on the sides. And even some of the edges of the subject matter is going dark. I don't care. This is well executed, right? And because of that, it is impactful. It's meaningful. You filled the space. The color palette also feels like, the color palette feels like color's being drained out of it a little bit, like it's the end of the summer. So the subject matter, the treatment, and the name all work together. But the color palette itself is gorgeous. This is a stunning piece. It's not technically difficult to pull off. That's what's so cool about something like this. This is not the hardest shot to shoot in the evening tonight. It's not. But it takes somebody who knows what they want to achieve in this art form. And so this is a 10.
Cold abstract.
So abstract's in the title. So somebody out there knew they had an image called Cold Abstract. And when I said that like an hour ago, they're like, well, geez, I'm so sorry. And I everybody's going to have a bias, right? That they're just going to have a bias in the type of art that they personally like, right? And that's what makes the human experience so great. But when you get a judge who's like, hey, there's a thing that I just don't like, I just have to apologize and go, I'm human, and you're going to find other judges who absolutely love and appreciate this. And I hope that your audience is there. So let's talk about the things that are completely not opinion, right? Your focus is good. Your exposure is good. Your contrast is good. There's nice dark areas, there's nice bright areas. I'm looking at contrast, if you haven't noticed. Contrast in color, contrast in the actual histogram. All of that's there. This is technically proficient, 100%. The subject matter is spaced inside of the frame so that I have places to go with my eye, right? We think about a concept that's called reads, R-E-A-D-S, in composition. Reads is saying, what do I look at and when? What's a thing that my eye stops on? And we want to lay out what's called a read structure in such a way that we control the movement of the eye through the frame. This has that. I just don't really know what I'm looking at that much. And like, yeah, I can like parse it out, but I just don't deal well in abstract, right? And so I apologize because I think that there is a proficiency in the execution here. And I also believe that there is a vision from the photographer that's saying, I'm going to lay out abstract work and I'm going to control the flow and movement of the eye. And that's saying you have done a good job presenting something that I'm not the best audience for, right? So I just don't know where to land on this. I've got to go to an 8, but honestly, if you're like, Joe, we love abstract art, then it's going to be higher for you. So I respect that opinion 100%, right? I'm not going to watch a slasher movie, even one that's really well made, right? Everyone's going to walk out of this and go, Joe said that abstract is the slasher films of photography. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that, like, I think this is a well-executed art form that I don't necessarily yet really have a great way for me to approach and appreciate. And maybe that's a failing on my part.
Well, as a fan of slasher films, I'll say I like abstracts. So that's just me.
Hey, that's great too. I'm so happy for you.
This is Explosion of Color.
And it is. Again, great. Get a great subject, put it in the middle of the frame, crop it into a square. It doesn't have to be complex, doing a great job in this art form. It really doesn't. Put into the image what needs to be in it to tell the story and leave everything else out, right? That's the basic rule of composition. This does that perfectly. All right, so it's perfectly in focus. Your color temperature is really good. Your color rendition itself is nice and poppy. You've brought up the pinks and we don't have like an explosion of the greens. That's the right choice. Very, very well done there. I think this is just a brilliant presentation. I think it's a brilliant presentation of how do I take a simple subject matter, a simple technique, and elevate the craft. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, geez, there's nothing I would change. It's a 10.
This is Sunlight, Soft and Mellow.
So I love the light leak effect here. And it's not just the light leak effect, but it's also done with a muted color palette. So one thing controls another, right? So I don't know if this was done through a LUT inside of Photoshop or preset, but it's very well orchestrated together. This is the photographer having a point of view on the subject matter, and every decision made all reinforce each other. Everything reinforces, right? It's technically well done. It's exposed properly. There's dark areas, there's bright areas. We're good. The color palette is limited, but that's reinforced with the treatment of the image. So all that is one cohesive package. I love that. I love that. I'm looking at this. I'm like, it's not a perfectly accurate white balance, but it's a treatment, and that works even better. Not everything needs to be perfect accuracy. Think about like your favorite book. Think about your favorite movie or TV show, right? Think about it. How much of really great art is about reproducing reality? Almost nothing, right? Almost nothing in art is about actually making something as realistic as possible. It's about a point of view and telling a story and presenting something, having an opinion on the subject matter. And we need to do that in photography just as much. I just wish there was more of a foreground prominent object in the frame, because everything's pushed a little bit farther back. I'm having a lack of a sense of scale. Placing foreground object, we actually call it scale contrast. The idea that I want some big things in the frame and some small things in the frame. Okay. It's one of the contrasts. It's just not one we think about all that much, but it is a contrast, scaling contrast, and it requires something bigger inside of the frame. I don't know the area, right? But there had to be a place to position yourself to scale the sizes of objects within the frame and still maintain the color palette and what you're shooting a picture of. So I have to go to a 9 just because we missed that one trick on this, but this is beautiful. And I love having your own opinion and approach and style on the subject matter. I think it's beautiful.
Riding the wave.
So obviously I alluded to this one earlier. I love this image. I love this image. And you know why it works? The ant is the only thing that's red in the frame. Black background, awesome. Brilliant green. This is great color work. Great. And if I didn't see that ant, it is an ant, right? It's pretty small. Yeah. If I didn't see that right away, it would still be good, but it wouldn't be great, right? Because there's such a lot of this wave, right? But I want to see all of that for this little guy. So it has to stand out. Fun little fact, going back to Jaws, rewatch it. One, just because it's a great movie, but notice that that nobody is dressed in the color red. Seriously, go back and watch it. Because the blood needed to be so impactful, nobody is dressed in red. None of the buildings are red. They avoided the color red until there was a shark attack. That's the importance of isolating color, okay? And isolating color means it stands out. Color is a form of contrast. This is technically excellent. It's post-processing excellent. And also, it's just lovely. This is a 10, no notes.
Circle of life.
Very well done. Dragonflies beautifully in focus. It is dragonfly, right? Looks like it, yeah. Where you're shooting, right? You got that circle, and that's really cool. I think your color temperature is good. I think your color temperature is good. Cropping this as you did works. Yeah, that's a good crop. I'm going to say something that annoys every macro photographer in the world. All right? And every sports photographer in the world, because I'm going to say something that is so obviously true. And then you're going to be like, but Joe, what you're saying wasn't possible at the moment, right? And it's just like, hey, this is the aspect. This is when we get into impact. I really want the subject facing the camera, right? You couldn't have done it because if you'd walked around, it'd be a different background, right? And that the guy just didn't turn around. The guy just didn't turn around. I understand that. Trust me, I do. But when we think about impact of images, right? When we think about what's going to make me go, wow, right? The subject wants to be coming towards the camera. It's that way in shooting insects. It's that way in sports photography. I want the subject moving towards the camera always, or nearly always, right? It's just more impactful. I think you could have gone and blurred your background a little bit more because we have a little bit of texturing and detail. I really don't need it. I think you could blur that more and maintain the same color quality of the background. Your contrast is good. The white balance itself is very good, right? There are these things from impact and presentation of subject that I think are missing out of this. And some of them are outside of your control. I recognize that. I know that. But if we're saying what is the top level of artistic achievement we can get in this art form, it's one of those things that's like, you know, just a reality. It's going to be an 8.
Red leaf pattern.
The reds are gorgeous. Obviously, that's like the thing that you wanted to achieve out of this is saying, I'm going for big impact reds and oranges. And I think you got it. I think you got it. Your focus is good. Your noise control is good. I also like that there's nothing outside of the pattern for me to examine. That said, I don't see a structured pattern, right? Something to follow. Remember me talking about reads, right? A thing that we look at and we build a read structure, the order that we look at things in a photograph. I'm not seeing that. inside of this larger crop of the image. Maybe there was a crop of it that would guide the eye through the frame. I'm thinking about center, slightly above center, where we've got reds and then yellows and oranges in the background, right? It's kind of in a diagonal line. If we cropped into this, could we at some point in this image find a pattern of maybe red leaves that we would follow against yellows or oranges? Instead, my eye's darting around. And that means that there's not actually a structure for me to follow. Think about the order that a viewer will look at the subject matter in your image, both as you're shooting and cropping it, right? What's the order that I'm going to approach these things and follow them, okay? I think that you could guide the viewer's eye a little bit more here in order to hit me with the impact of the image itself. So we need to have a place to kind of enter or approach this. So an 8, yeah, final answer.
Architect in the shadows.
Spiders are so cool. I mean, I killed 3 of them in my basement yesterday, but still, they're so cool. Having that cascade of light coming in, honestly, is really cool. I haven't seen that before. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Man, you're working, it's small, so you're going shallow depth of field. That's probably due to the distance that you're shooting, right? So laws of macro. So we have either due to depth of field, it's probably not shutter speed, it's probably depth of field or focus. We've got slightly missed focus on the subject. Because what I want to see out of an image like this is I want to see this really crisp image of a spider, right? That's what I'm going for. I think the light coming in looks great. I think the clean background looks great. I think grabbing good focus on having the water droplets, if possible, be focused is nice, but we're missing the key component, the big thing, which is focus on the spider. This is a missed focus shot. And that is a shame because it needed to be a little bit cropped. That's not a big deal, but it doesn't have that really rich crispness that I'm going for in ideal circumstance, right? So I have to go to a 7.
Big brother, little brother.
So why do we lay out subject matter on a diagonal? We do it because it's the most efficient use of space in a 2:3 aspect ratio image, right? It efficiently uses the space and utilizes the palette that you have in front of you, right? I was watching Chef's Table for a while, and they talk a whole lot about what plate you use when you're plating something matters with the presentation. And I was thinking about, man, we're kind of starved as photographers because we always are shooting off of an aspect ratio that's fixed in our camera. And the only thing we can do is crop from that point. We can only lose. We can never change shape in a truly like additive or meaningful way. And so we work diagonally because it efficiently uses space and also it forces asymmetry into the image. And asymmetry is usually more interesting than symmetry. This proves that concept beautifully. This is a lovely layout of imagery. It's technically exactly right. The focus is perfect. I think the color is beautiful on it. The depth of field is quite lovely. I think your contrast looks, yeah, it looks good. You've got areas of really deep black. You've got nice bright areas to it. But beyond that, right, we're laying out images in a way that is impactful, that is meaningful to it. And every time I look at it and go, should it be cropped a little bit more? I think probably not. I think you're using the space entirely. I think you really are. I love it. It's a 10. This is the kind of thing I try to achieve in macro photography.
East Zion, Utah, once an ocean.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, you hit the idea of the repeating pattern, right? Exactly. Filling the frame with the subject matter, exactly the right choice. Exactly the right choice. Don't give me any place to leave with something like this. It's an interesting subject. right? It's so cool to see this, right? And it's one of the times that I don't need scale when it really is pattern. It feels like a depth of field thing where we are less sharp on the sides, right? And I think trying to hit a depth of field where it is sharp all the way edge to edge would be marginally more impactful. That's a minute thing. It is a minute thing, but I think that we actually have a little bit of loss there on the sides. That's what I was checking. We could bump up some color saturation. We could add some contrast. So I think there's some impact at the editing level that is possible. I think that there is a control over being flat to the plane, which would help out with the depth of field concern with an image like this at the moment of shooting, I believe. I think that's what the actual loss there on the sides was. It may not be, but not sure off the top of my head exactly what it is, but I think we have some loss there. So there's a couple points that I'm like, okay, there's a way that we could make this even more impactful, but it's really nice, right? This is an 8.
This is fungus on moss. And after this image, let's go back and look at some of the 9s and 10s that we've had.
Super cool. I like the color of the moss back there. It's very like trippy, and I like it. That's working really well. I think you're filling the frame with interesting stuff. There's some slight lack of real crispness in this. Like when we've got an image like this, I want the detail at the in focus region to absolutely hit me. And it's not completely doing that. I think you could bump a little bit of color saturation. I think your crop is good. Your exposure is nice. Your contrast is beautiful on it. I'm looking at it and I'm not seeing the high impact from perfect focus at one point that I'm examining for. It's in focus. It's not like a missed focus, but somehow I'm not seeing this incredibly like rich, detailed portion. And maybe I'm missing it, but I'm not seeing it. But it is lovely. And a cool find. We're gonna go 8. Yeah. 2 cubed.
Rings of Teeth is from John Helfrich.
Thanks, Joe, for your comments. I actually did try this in black and white, and I like it in black and white very much, but I thought that it had a little more impact in color in that the teeth in color are red, and you lose that red kind of effect of blood in the black and white. Maybe I need to improve my black and white processing, but the color seemed to me to be a little better. But anyway, thanks for your comments.
Thank you, John. Along the Edge is from John List.
Thank you, Joe, for your comments. This was taken at the National Sand Dunes down in southern Colorado. And yeah, this is one of those we were getting ready to leave. Couple hours before sunset, said, we'll just stick around. So I drove out of the park and pulled over, had a sandwich, set up the tripod, just waited. And I only shoot black and white, so, but the sky and the colors, the oranges and the purples were just amazing. But I liked it better as black and white, so there we are. Thanks.
Gorgeous. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Thanks.
More impressive work, John. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Colorful Farewell to the Summers from Gary Witt.
I spent a lot of time wandering around this little pond looking at the leaves in the water, and I've been at the camera club for quite a while now, and you learn over and over, hearing from judges about how do you keep the viewer's eye in the frame. And so that was truly in the back of my mind, is how do I find isolated pockets of these colors with things that will keep your focus there. So this was obviously a subject that caught my eye. I love the fact that there was a variety of colors in it. And to be perfectly honest, the difficulty was the below the water surface, there was a bit of detail that was kind of creeping in, so I spent a lot of time trying to knock that down, so that kind of was taken out of the mind's eye. And I appreciate your comments, Joe, about the darkness around the edges. As I was playing around with it, I thought, you know, that helps, honestly, even if it goes dead black, it just has an interesting kind of ominous sort of feel to it. So that combined with coming up with a title, which is always a difficult thing. So I appreciate your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Gary. Explosion of Colors from Brian Donovan.
Thanks for your comments, Joe. This succulent is about a mile from my house, and I walk by it all the time. And in the spring, I'll check it, a couple times a week, and because the flowers don't last very long once it does bloom. So it is an easy shot to take, but it does take a lot of time just to find the right moment when it's all flowering. But thanks for your comment.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shot, Brian. Sunlight, Soft and Mellow is from John Salisbury.
Yeah, this is about 100 yards from here in Lone Tree over in the green space, taken last fall.
Another judge who gets you, John.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. Absolutely. Riding the Wave is from Joy Lindholm. I know she was planning on traveling soon, but I'm not sure if she was going to be out tonight. She did write a lengthy description here. She said she's photographing the wavy, I'm going to butcher the word, petiole of an elephant ear leaf at a botanic garden in Honolulu. When a few ants started photobombing my efforts, this one happened to be at just the right spot, as if it were surfing along the edge, very on brand for a Hawaiian ant. I played with a few different crops, but ultimately loved the tall panorama, which emphasizes the length of the wavy pattern and sets it nicely against the dark background. Very cool shot.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
Todd Lytle. I laughed when you made the comment, Joe, because I work with Joy in a mentor-mentee relationship, and she and her wife had my wife and I over for dinner, and she showed me some images to maybe put in this, and she showed me this one, and I said, well, it's really a shame that there aren't more ants. Really a shame that there aren't more ants in this image, because it would be like an ant parade, and it would just be so cool. And the first thing, what I really, really like about this is there's only one ant. I texted her a minute ago and didn't get back. I just said OMG, exclamation point. And I'm sure she'll be very flattered when she watches the review and hears that I got to eat a little crow.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm guessing that when she watches the recording that you're going to be fired as her mentor.
Yeah, well, she scored higher than me on most everything this year, so I'm about ready to retire. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah.
Big Brother, Little Brother is from Oz Fenninger.
Oz isn't in. I think Oz is traveling. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. He said that this image was taken in a cloud forest in Ecuador earlier this year. I was drawn to the curves on the large leaf as well as the contrast in size and color of the two leaves. The image was cropped a bit, contrast was adjusted, and small distractions on the leaves were removed. Background leaves were darkened but not blackened to give depth to the image without being distracting. Another excellent result from Oz. All right, well, that was it for this little batch of 9s and 10s. We can go back to the rest of the images. This is layered by time and tide.
Not only is it a nice depth of field, your point of focus was exactly right here. That feels really good. There's not going to be anything that's like, oh, when you do color saturation, it doesn't have that aspect to it, right? But I do think it's lacking in contrast and lacking in something that's really going to be the big impact that pulls me into the image. So it's the pattern and the texture, but I think it needs a little bit of contrast and something that's going to pull me into it a little bit. I'm not sure what that would even be necessarily. And I feel bad saying, oh, I wish it had this thing that I can't even imagine, right? So that's kind of like, missing components to it. But understanding the way you're laying out subject matter inside of the frame, understanding the way that you're going to control all technical aspects of it. And I think the color is well controlled. It's lacking in punch is I'm going to go 8. Yeah.
Water on the rocks.
Oh man, this is nice. I really like this effect. Painting with time is always one of my favorite things in photography. It produces such stunning work. And working it as a black and white is 100% an appropriate way to go. I'm taking a look at it, and I think your noise control is great. I think the quality of the actual contrast is great. One thing I look for in a really great painting with time image is something unmoving that is perfectly still in focus, right? And then all the other stuff moving around it is fine. And here, because of the water moving over the rock, we don't get perfect like sharpness at any point inside of there, which is a little bit of a shame. Every other aspect of this is just a very, very nice use of a technique, and I really appreciate it. And I love the crop. I love the positioning. I love the movement inside of it. So it's a 9.
I love the term painting with time. That's excellent.
I wish I could take credit for it.
This is past its prime.
Well, I did say that odd numbers of things are more interesting than even numbers of things. And this 3 layers, I love the way that looks. I really do. Nice subject matter and it's nice title as well. It says something about your presentation of the image. Love the really dark background. I wish we weren't trimming off the bottom of that leaf at the bottom. Oh my gosh, it's the only thing. I wish there was a little bit of breathing room because it's one of those defining edges, right? Things that define the edge of a photograph. Color looks really nice. Focus is exactly where I want it to be, right? You're building 3 layers of things. Nice dark background. We're gonna go 9.
Sandstone whirlpool.
Your focus is great. I think your color and color temperature is nice, and there's a nice contrast that's going on. There really, really is. If the whirlpool is the point of the shot, I wish the camera was angled slightly more to camera right, because that's what we're trying to see. And we're cropping off a little bit of like the edge of it there. And the sky being so totally just blank and white pulls me out of it a little bit. Those are 2 very minor things. When your oranges are so nice, this is what we're talking about by high impact contrast, deep color, nice deep black inside of the image. Look at how the shadow, the black portions in that rock formation make the color stand out, right? That's what we're talking about when we say that deep black and shadow brings that color saturation. That's the idea of how impactful a nice amount of contrast is to the color inside of an image, right? I think that that's just really nice. That's a 9. Don't go on a rant, Joe, as I tend to do.
Prismatic shoreline.
The differences here between the Zoom call and the LRC monitor are big, really big in the contrast and the depth of the color, and even the color itself, pretty dramatic. I'm looking at them and I don't know where I should be putting my attention. So I'm going to be optimistic and assume that, hey, we've got an image that is closer to the brightness and the color from the Zoom call. All right. In which case, I love the color palette here. Love the color palette. It's rich. Is it like, this is what we mean when we say color is the point of the image. I still know what I'm looking at. I still see detail, but the point of it is the color richness, which is incredible. Your focus is exactly where I want it to be. The texturing is there. Is there something that's creating three-dimensionality or creating high impact or a sense of elevated creativity to the image other than the color palette? Not necessarily. But what we have is something that is a beautiful scene rendered incredibly well with color work done in post that is additive to the subject matter. This is a 9. There's a lot of 9s right here.
Poblano with lime.
This is cool. Another really nice use of a black and white. Another really nice use of texturing, and the sharpness is quite lovely. I love the seeds. Those are really coming out great. You've positioned this. Notice it's at an angle. It's utilizing space effectively, and it's running corner to corner. Very intelligent use of space here. I really like that. Something about a still life has difficulty for me in like saying this subject right now needs to be examined. And I think that I've always had that kind of approach personally, or that kind of examination or reaction. But man, oh man, this is just a lovely way of presenting the subject matter and cutting the fruit so that it stays flat to the plane with the front of the pepper. That's a smart touch. I appreciate that. This is a 9. This is good.
Layers of time.
Indeed they are. Nice sharpness running edge to edge, nice contrast. Making this black and white works. It really does. If the color doesn't tell a story, it's worth considering in black and white. If the color is part of the story, then obviously we keep it, right? This has some nice depth of field that runs through the whole image, which I appreciate. And you're running it along a diagonal. So a lot of stuff happening here. There's something about just examining a pattern by itself where the subject matter or the creativity of the image isn't jumping forward and saying this must be examined. It's just cool to be able to see. And I think it's technically proficient the way that it's applied. So we're on a streak here. It's another 9.
Find totem.
I'm so glad we're getting a series of good black and whites here. That's always nice to see. I mean, it is a little abstract. Centered really well. What's counting as the background, for lack of a better phrase, beautifully blurred. The pattern is just super interesting to look, examine, and appreciate. It really is, as we almost try to interpret it in some way, as if it was a language. I like that. This moves beyond saying, you know, this is not abstract. It's a shape that we're examining, right? I say that kind of as a joke, but it's a shape that we're examining, and I think an interesting one at that. I like it. It's another 9. I don't know. I don't know any other numbers right now.
Orange on orange.
Remember we said subject matter facing the camera? This is what we're talking about. It's so nice to see, right? It's a great examination of the subject, right? The orange is beautiful. The pinks are beautiful. And I appreciate that you didn't punch the greens in the background here because I don't want everything drawing my attention away. Muting the greens and maintaining the oranges and pinks, I think that was the right call. Subject matter, we're not clipping any of the wings of the butterfly. I think that's really nice. The focus is in the wrong spot. The focus is on the front of the flower, meaning that we don't have focus on the head of the butterfly. And the reality of a shot like this is that's where I'm looking, right? So it's a tough thing because in macro, you must choose. You have to choose. Depth of field's not going to cover it, right? You get such shallow depth of field when you're approaching 1-to-1 ratio. So you have to choose here. And I would say that in a shot where a butterfly is on a flower, I think that what we're looking at first is the face of the butterfly. And as a result of that, I have to call it a missed focus, even though it is perfectly in focus at the front of the flower, right? So it's not like it's a focusing mistake. I think it's just not the better of the choices. So I've got to go 8. Break my streak.
Block face of the forest.
I really like that title. I'm not judging a lot based on title, but that's a really good title. That's just smart. That's what the point by itself, right? Nicely focused, nice texture on it. Black and white is a great way to examine this subject. I think your contrast needs to be punched noticeably, and you can make the background darker, right? 2 components that I would say, hey, take a look at this to really elevate this. You can punch the contrast harder in this image and it will be more impactful. Black and white can handle it. It can soak that much contrast. It really can. The image, by the way, as we go to black and white and as we punch contrast, it shows off texture and focus better. So the focus that is on this tree will show up better. And I think you could even do it some of the contrast control through a clarity slider in order to make that really stand out. So there's latitude here in a number of different ways. So there is impact to be pulled from this thing. I've got to go to an 8, but it's all solvable stuff, y'all. It's all solvable, right? This is an image where a couple minutes tweaking and you'll see a difference. You really will.
Windswept sand.
This is classic composition. Classic composition. And it's exactly right. The clouds are white. The deep shadow is black, right? That's the range we're looking for, especially in a black and white. Could we punch contrast on the sand? Maybe, but we'd lose detail. And so I think this is actually riding the line really well, because that's the thing. If we go so dark that we start losing detail in a place we need it, that's a problem. Your shutter speed is also really nice and crisp, which is important for the clouds. I even want that to be sharp. This is magnificent depth of field control. I really like it. This is great. This is a 10. This is just really exciting to look at. I think it's fun. It's the way that I want to approach a landscape.
The Sandman.
Technically proficient. It's in focus. I think your color temperature looks really accurate from what I'm able to judge. I think the crop actually is very smart too. This is a nice crop to it. The problem is I don't really know what this subject matter is that I'm really looking at. And so I can't get a sense of scale. I can't get a sense of subject. So there's a lack of me being able to put this subject into context. That's difficult, right? And because I have trouble knowing even the size or the scale of what I'm looking at, I can't grab onto it and really appreciate it the way that I want to, even though I think that it is technically very, very well done, right? The color's good, the focus is good, the depth of field is good. I think you made appropriate decisions in the balance of your triangle. But I have to go 8 just because I can't find my way into it. Not really.
Canyon going to sea.
Well, that's nice. Blue in the sky is great. The rainbow looks awesome. If you get the color temperature wrong in a shot with the rainbow, it really shows up. But nope, you got that right. You've got nice contrast inside of it. And look at the rise of the canyon coming into the corners of the frame, defining the edge, literally defining the edge at 3 corners. Right? That's really nice. The way that that's laid out. Geez, what do you say? It's like it's a rainbow and a canyon with a river and it's well exposed and the color's great. It's a 10. This is beautiful. This is really, I would like do a whole big thing, but we're pressed for time. But that is what we aim for in great landscape shooting. That's it.
Seeds of tomorrow.
Oh, that's nice. Centered subject, which is what this should be. I think your color temperature looks good. I love the vignette around the corners. I love the simplicity. I love the focus. I'll tell you what I don't love is the green. This is a weird one for me because I'm looking at it and everything else feels kind of muted in the color palette except for the greens, which are in the background. They're not the thing that I'm supposed to be paying attention to. So it's actually drawing my attention away from the subject matter. If the greens also were along the same muted color palette feel, and maybe it's the monitor I'm looking at, so like, take this with a grain of salt. If they were, or if we swapped what was the really saturated and dominant color to like the pinks and oranges in the foreground, I think we'd be there. I think we'd be exactly there, right? But something about the prominence that I'm seeing of the greens in the image is pulling me away. So I'm going to go 9 just on that because this is so close to a perfect picture. It really is.
This is Mounds in the Mountains of Maui. And after this one, we'll again jump to the 9s and 10s and talk to the makers.
There's a color palette and a presentation and a style to this that really feels like its own thing. And what's neat about that is that I've been to Hawaii, and so much of the photography is about how rich can we make the forest greens, right? And presenting a very different color palette and view, I think is gorgeous. It tells a totally different story than I've seen before. And it's a stark sky and having, right, this dark kind of cloud almost lifting out of it really saves what would have been a really just overexposed and gray and stark kind of sky. I wish we had something in the foreground to give us a sense of size or scale to it. It's that landscape trick of having scaling contrast within the image in order to define space that I kind of wish that I had inside of this image. But it's a presentation that frankly I just haven't really seen before. And I appreciate that. This is a 9.
All right, so this is Water on the Rocks, and it's from Barbara Masonville.
Thank you, Joe, for your comments. Well point taken on the point of focus there for nothing is in sharp focus. I appreciate that. This was a waterfall that I took in Tennessee, a state park called Fall Creek Falls. Thank you again, Joe.
All right, Past Its Prime is from Bob Bartlett.
Believe it or not, I was almost going to get rid of this photo. Biggest issue is right here. You see that bright spot? I had so much trouble trying to darken that. I don't think I did a very good job. And so I thought, well, see what the judge had to say about this.
Well, and you got your answer.
Didn't bother me.
Sandstone Whirlpool is from Jordan McCulloch.
Yeah, this was also from our hike at the Wave. I think the most special part about this trip for us is that we had this place to ourselves the entire time that we were there. It was like Mother's Day weekend, and so we head out really early, and the weather, I mean, it rained pretty good while we were up there, which is why I think that contrast sticks out so much. But yeah, it was amazing. We were there for like 2 hours, and we were just like waiting for someone to kick us out so that they could have it to themselves.
Very nice. Prismatic Shoreline is from Jeanette Lonsdale.
Hi. Thank you for your comments, Joe. They were excellent comments about the color. I often feel I'm a little heavy-handed with color, so it's nice to have someone who says it's okay. This was taken at Yellowstone, kind of early evening, and it's actually a really small pool, and I was kind of hanging over a rather rickety fence, much to the entertainment of my husband, who thought I was going to fall in. So thanks again.
Poblano with Lime is from Laura Blake. Laura is without audio this evening, so she put in a chat to me. I enjoy taking the time to shoot a still life on occasion, and I find it very challenging. So many decisions. Thank you for the kind comments. Layers of Time is from Steve Kearns. And unfortunately, Steve didn't leave any notes or messages about this image, but it is a fine black and white, great contrast there. Pond Totem is from Steve Wilton.
Yes, thank you, Joe. I took several shots in the local pond. Here are these twigs and grasses coming out of the water, and none of them really worked for me except this one when I turned it 90 degrees. Thank you.
That's a nice shot, Steve. And it's amazing how sometimes you turn an image and it looks better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Windswept Sand is from Gwen Patton. And the only note that Gwen left was that this was the sand dunes of Colorado. Canyon Going to Sea is from Rick Carter.
Thank you very much, Joe. I really appreciate your comments. It's a picture I really like. I was backpacking in the Yellowstone and we walked across, a lookout for the Grand Canyon. And yeah, it was just the right time of day. And I love your comments also on a lot of your comments on a lot of the pictures. Good information, good learning experience. Thank you very much for judging this.
Thank you, Rick. Seeds of Tomorrow is Bill Williams.
Yeah, this was a flower, a seed pod that I found out hiking and stuff. And I agree, Joe. Now that I look at it, the green is kind of drawing your eye out of it a little bit, yeah. But I was glad to be able to get it. It's fairly large flower and whatnot, so it was interesting to find.
Nice work, Bill. And Mountains in the Mountains of Maui is from Kyle Durlam.
Yeah, Joe, again, like Eric, what everyone else is saying, very educational comments and really appreciate it. This was 4 years ago this month in Maui, just north of Lahaina, where 2 years later they experienced the terrible fires. No fire in this one, that's all fog, and I did everything I could to accentuate it, not get rid of it, and yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. This is Contours of Cold.
This is getting hard. You guys are really good photographers. This is nice. I think you're actually filling the frame really well here. I take a look at it and there's something for me to follow and examine throughout the frame because so much of it is effectively in focus. That's really nice. I'm looking at two different screens. I'm just going to assume that it's closer to the blue that I'm seeing here, in which case it is a rich, vibrant blue, and I really like that. I really like that, which is nice to be able to see. There's something about abstract, I think I've said this, where abstract has this way of, so you guys ever see like, there's a big question, like there's a painting and it's like all red, right? Like we've all heard of like, people like see like a photograph that's all red or all blue or something like that. And they're like, what's the point in that, right? And the point is that they're big. If you actually look at the scaling or the size of paintings that are these really just like big splashes of color, the point is that they're enormous, right? 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet long, because you're supposed to examine them from really close up. And when was the last time you experienced this much blue or this much red, right? And so having something that gets immersive is actually really nice. I think it's the value of abstract, but at the same time, it also deals in not having prominent singular subject matter. And that's kind of that's the nature of that craft, right? Which is both a strength and a weakness of this particular art form. I think this is an amazingly well done piece of pattern seeking. an examination. But I think the nature of abstract is that it doesn't have the very thing that I look for in the best of all images, which is singular subject matter impact. This is a 9. It's a very nice piece of pattern examination.
Through the trees to the sky.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, I like it. Where's the point of focus? On, okay, so it's on that particular one. All right. This is a great way of presenting the subject matter. This is a great way of presenting the subject matter. I've seen, every fall you're going to get pictures of shooting straight up through trees, right? Especially in Colorado. And they continue to be impactful. They continue to be meaningful, which is nice. Your point of focus is actually farther away, and I wish it was the trunks of the tree, right? And I don't know if that would say, hey, it's going to take the higher up branches and blur those slightly, or maybe those really sharp branches are actually what's making the image. So maybe I'm imagining wrong, right? Or maybe it would take the clouds and lose texturing inside of those, which is a big deal. But I look at the trunks of the trees, and it's not the point of focus. Depth of field is fighting against us in that sense. And I think, just by guesswork, I want to have a little bit more that's actually noticeably the point of focus here. It's not missed focus. I just don't know it was the best of all possible choices. That said, it's really cool. It's really just a neat examination, and it's the kind of thing that's impactful that you remember. It's a 9. I shouldn't go on rants.
A land of 10,000 suns.
Very similar to an image that we saw earlier, where there is a very interesting treatment to it, right? So we've got the film fog effect being layered on top of what feels like a LUT, or perhaps another like scratch image that's been placed on top and changed in its blend mode. And all that adds together to a cool effect. I like it. There's nothing that is the big point of focus, though. And so it feels like it's missing focus, and it feels like it's missing singular subject matter, right? And so I question the positioning to the subject matter on here, not the technical expertise shooting it, and definitely not the technical expertise in editing it. I think those things actually add together and are layered and meaningful here. But I want to see from something like this, still that idea of there's something that is definitively my point of focus, right? And I'm not seeing that in the same way. So I'm going to go 8.
A Fibonacci feast.
Okay, so remember me saying like a little bit ago, like I saw one image, I was like, oh my God, are they all going to be that good, right? This was the second one in that ordering. And I was like, dear Lord, these people are really skilled. This is exactly what we aim to achieve in macro photography, right? Something that is a cool subject matter, that examines pattern in a way that is also really meaningful and storytelling, right? Most pattern images lack storytelling. It's an examination of something. And yet here we have both, right? This is exactly what we're going for. The color is perfect. The point of focus is perfect. The positioning of Fibonacci spiral and, of course, the insect, it's exactly what we aim for. This is a 10, no notes.
Galaxy of light.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love it. Noise is under control. I mean, this is the definition of high contrast. It's all white and black, right? And really impactful as a result. The crop fits the subject matter. I'm down. That feels really good. This is a shot where the treatment of the image elevates the subject, right? The subject is less interesting than the point of view on it, which is actually, in the end, the way all photography is. But this kind of proves that concept that it is not the photographer, sorry, it's not the subject matter that is or is not really interesting. It's the way we examine it as photographers. This type of simple, getting in close, examine detail. This is what I'm looking for out of that style of shot. I don't know. It's a 10. What would I change? This is exactly the way I'd want to approach it.
Bentonite fins, Mount Garfield.
Now I got to go to Mount Garfield. All right. You're in focus. Exactly right. I think your exposure is good. Yeah, your exposure looks good. Your white balance looks accurate. It's difficult to tell for sure, but it looks accurate. We're missing impact, right? I think that, yeah, it could add some contrast to it. And it does feel like depth of field is a little bit too shallow for the kind of image we're going for, which is a big sweeping area, right? I've got to have a reason to have the background start to go out of focus in a landscape style image. It can happen, it can exist, but I need a reason for it, and I don't see it here. I want a lot more impact inside of this. Maybe that's color richness with like some kind of color grading effect. Maybe maybe it is also added contrast. Maybe it is also really extended depth of field, right? But I think there's ways of taking the subject matter and elevating this through those kinds of techniques, right? So I think that there's some aspects that are shooting here. There's some aspects that are post. It's a little bit of both in the approach that's going to take this and make it really something big, right? I've got to go to a 7 on this as a result.
Causeway of Myths.
This is cool. Love the dichotomy of the color separation. Love that. That is color being contrasting and impactful. The exposure is contrasting and impactful. It's gorgeous in that sense. There's pattern to be able to follow. Love that. There's no like foreground object, right? So there's no size contrast inside of the image. I wish that there was in some way, but you can't crop this in any significant way because we would lose out on such interesting kind of those gold highlights throughout the image. This is beautiful. This is a 9.
Dancing couples.
I get such a sense of this being something I can interpret, of something that I could invent an understanding for. And that's really cool. There's something about this that screams for you know what you're looking at and now fill in the rest about it. It also reminds me of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books from when I was a kid. There's something about that as well, but in that art form. I think this is just gorgeous. It gets me thinking as I examine it in a way that a lot of imagery doesn't ask anything of me. This is asking something of me. It's interesting, and then I need to go deeper into it. This is cool. This is a 9.
All right, well, that was the last of our official images. We're going to keep on going here. We've got 10 critique-only images. Joe, if you would just keep doing what you've been doing as far as the commentary and the scores, because these are images that aren't necessarily patterns in nature. They can be anything. But as we discussed when we had our phone call, that these are images that people are potentially going to put in a future competition, or they're just looking for an quote expert's opinion on their image. So this one is working alone.
Follow-up question: do you still want ratings?
Yes, yeah, because that gives the maker an idea of how strong the image is or not.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, they're looking for an expert's opinion and you got me instead. I feel sorry for all of you. Okay. Framing top to bottom is exactly right? We're defining the edge. And of course, We can't see any other people inside of here. Very nice. I get the idea of this immediately. So that idea that you've communicated a concept to me immediately comes through. And that, like we said, what's the point of composition? The point of composition is to inform the viewer about what is important. I get it immediately. That's great. That's really, really nice. The subject matter being basically centered, I think that's appropriate. I think that works. I'm totally down with that. I think that's good. And I get so much. The point about images like this is isolation. And we're losing a little bit of isolation because of how strong the reflection is. So if the user, if the shooter of this image is a Photoshop user, and now they've actually added this into Lightroom, there's a reflection reduction section that's been added into both softwares. It's in the removal section of LRC. It is inside of the camera raw filter in Photoshop. See if there's a way of diminishing the reflection, because I can't tell exactly how isolated this person is because I can't see through a lot of the windows. So if that's a possibility, go for it. Additionally, there's no light contrast or exposure contrast on the subject. All right. And so if there was a way of creating some, like, I actually would go for a cone of light that kind of came down subtly and brought the subject out to darken the area around, still allowing me to see. We're talking like a third to half a stop, right? This is not significant. This is a subtle effect that I think could be meaningful for you. If you're able to kind of nudge a little bit of your opinion on the subject matter into this, I think it could even be more impactful. As it stands, it's an 8. But it has a ton of potential to raise even higher than that, because I get what you're going for with this, and communicating that immediately, that's the majority of the battle.
Lost.
We dealt with a couple like large pattern black and white. So you know a lot of the stuff I'm going to say, that I'm always looking for deep contrast. You've got it. I'm looking for depth of field, or at least focus that continues corner to corner. You've got it. But that's about as far as it goes with the image on this. Now, at this point, just understand that like abstract and then abstract textures are just something that don't speak to me in the same way. So you might find wildly different opinions from judges on something like this. Then that's totally appropriate, and that's the nature of art, right? But something that is just pattern examination is not going to be something that screams at me. And so for me, it's an 8, but I don't have an editing recommendation for you or shooting recommendation for you. I just think that there's no subject matter inside of a pattern that is going to really draw my attention to it and raise its impact level as a piece of art. Personal opinion.
Allium starburst.
Lovely. So the first thing that is a big deal is the color of the flower different than the color of the background? And yours is. Perfect. That's what we're going for. That's amazing. Your focus is exactly right. Your color temperature looks good. Color saturation looks just about perfect. So boom, boom, boom. A lot of stuff is going great inside of this image. It can be more impactful. First of all, you can crop this a little bit. I just don't need the stem. I don't need at least that much of the stem. And if I get closer, remember, the closer we are to the subject, the more we appreciate your level of focus. And it looks to me that you nailed focus. But I've got to get, like, for people who are on the call, you can't see that I'm getting really close to the monitor sometimes to really examine focus. And I want that to hit me immediately. So getting closer allows me to appreciate detail faster. And everything's about speed. Never there's an old phrase for people who are aspiring writers. Never forget that you are writing books for a population that reads books. That's a self-selecting group, right? Think about that. When you shoot a photograph, you are shooting visual art and presenting it to the most visually literate human beings who have ever lived. That is true. We are more proficient at processing visual art than any other generation of human beings, maybe to our detriment. but that is it. So people examine art fast, 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 fast. All right. So I think you get in closer. I think you could blur the background more as well, right? You could go in one of a dozen different ways of taking your background layer and then actually blurring that more. I don't need to see the individual shapes of flowers. You could blur that more, and I think it's going to be a stronger image for it. As it stands, it's an 8. But this is an image that could absolutely be elevated above that station with a little bit of smart editing. It really can.
Silent witness in the Tetons.
I got to get to the Tetons again. Oh my God, they're great. Right? They're so cool. Your depth of field is great here, right? We want the Tetons, we want the cabin. Boom, you've got both. That's appropriate. Your level of contrast in most of the image is very nice. The sky is low contrast. I'm not sure how much can be done. It depends on the actual subject matter inside of there, right? Sometimes you just get kind of a stark white sky and you're like, well, okay, this is everything that's physically possible with the image. Check it out, see if the sky itself can add contrast. The big problem is the shape. The ramp at the bottom of the image, the field in the foreground, none of that works for me in this image. This is a stronger image if you crop into a pano and crop out the bottom half of the frame. Personal opinion. I don't think it's doing anything for you there, and it's detracting from what I really like. The cabin, the Tetons look great. The color of the trees looks great. The slight purplish color of the mountains looks great. I would crop this into a pano. I think that would be a stronger image right there. Just the top half. If you could do something with the sky, great. As it stands, it's a 7, but that is mostly because the crop is de-emphasizing the subject matter, which matters significantly when we de-emphasize, right? So I would go back, and you crop that, boom, immediately goes up to an 8, if not a 9. This can be very, very good, right? It's a cropping trick.
Shadows and reflections and mist.
Man, this is good. This is really nice. Your color, fantastic. Your contrast, fantastic. Silhouetting the trees, that's the right choice in this image. That's great. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a 9. And I'm going to tell you how I would approach shooting this. And sadly, the thing that I'm going to say that this could be a 10, but not this image. And it's your aperture. Right? This feels, and I'm guessing that we're an aperture of around 8, something like that. What I really want is a starburst effect out of this sun, right? And that doesn't happen till F13, F16, right? And I very rarely do an F16 shot due to diffraction, but when you're trying to hit starburst, that's what I'm aiming for. If we're able to achieve that, and starburst happen when it's coming directly at me, right? That would be a more impactful image potentially, I believe. And so taking a look at this and thinking about what is the very best thing that could be achieved here, trying to achieve starburst effect is the thing I would aim for. And maybe sometimes you go to F16 and it just doesn't happen. I haven't looked at the aperture on this image, I don't know, but it's the thing that I would want to try to achieve out of it. And maybe it couldn't happen. But man, this is incredibly well composed, incredibly well shot, and the color is phenomenal. This is a great image. It really is.
And while you were talking about that image, I took a look at the EXIF data. It was shot at F10.
F10, got it. Okay. So maybe the sun is so large inside of it that because in order for starburst effect to happen, the sun has to be a certain size.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too large, but it's the thing I would have attempted for. So thanks for checking that, because I didn't know there. I appreciate it.
Sure. Okay. This is utility trailer.
I get that it's a face immediately, right? Like that reads really fast to everybody. And I love that. I think you're a little bit low contrast. I think you could adjust contrast a little bit. Are you aiming for it to be a cooler color temperature? I'm not sure. If you're not aiming for it to be a cooler color temperature, it does read that way. All right, so just know that. The question is whether or not we crop it into a square. Because if you crop it into a square, then the shape of the photograph fits the shape of a face, right? Think about cropping it right where that line is and losing the line and having a square image or so just in that bottom portion. And now it reads as a face, I think, a little bit faster, a little bit cleaner, right? But I get what you're communicating immediately, and it's fun. Remember, photography should be fun, right? I enjoy the living heck out of this. I think it's a 9. This is really good stuff. It makes me happy.
Nature's Jackson Pollock.
Sorry, Joe.
We had a question?
The fact that the title wasn't even anything about the face, does that bother you, or should it?
Okay, so let's say, so the question before us is, does the fact that the title has nothing to do with the face, right? Does that bother me? A really good judge would have caught that. So I bet you that it would bother some people. I bet you that it would. It didn't bother me because honestly, I didn't even think about the title. But the title is part of the presentation of the image, right? It's part of the way that we present it. So yeah, I actually think that that's a very good point to be made, that the title of the image itself doesn't speak to, honestly, the fun of the image and the interpretation. I don't mind discovering the face for myself, but I think that you've got a point there, and some judges might call you on it. That's a fair point. All right, let's go to the next one. So this is Jackson Pollock, right?
Yes.
So my big question for this photographer is that what those colors really looked like? Because they are neon, right? And sometimes you get a color in nature that you shoot it and you're like, no one will ever believe me, right? Like we get that sometimes. And so I completely believe that it is possible that, like, yeah, that's what it was. If it wasn't, I think it's distracting. If it was, then super cool. But I don't get to know that as a judge, right? And that's a tricky part for me, that I don't get to know the thing that makes a big difference to me inside of the image. So what do we do about that? Is there, to the point that we had from the last image, a title? But I mean, it's calling Nature's Jackson Pollock, right? And so that makes me interpret that this is reality, that I'm looking at a color rendition that is accurate, in which case it's super vibrant. There's no sense of the flow of the image. Like, what am I supposed to look at second, third, fourth? Like, I don't get a sense of that. And I don't get singular subject matter out of it. It's an 8 for me at the moment because I don't know where my eye is supposed to draw. Maybe that's a cropping thing. Like if we took a look, crop it in 20% and move that crop so we see from the top left corner down. And all of a sudden we lose some of the bottom right and we get a duality image and I can follow the line in between. That might read slightly better. All right, I'm thinking that. So that's kind of my thoughts off the top of my head, for whatever it's worth.
Going down.
A great blues riff. I really like this. I mean, this is classic, right? Spiral stairs, turn around, shoot down. Classic shot. And it's classic for a reason. It works. It's really nice and it works. Yeah, I wish that the actual spiraling in the center was a little bit more centered inside of the frame slightly. I love the color off of all these lights and the rich oranges. Why do I like it so much? Because we have this nice blues from the metal, right? Color contrast. Really good exposure contrast. This is cool stuff. I enjoy it. Wish it was a little bit more centered, but that means holding your camera out even farther over the abyss, and I get it. I get that fear. I'm gonna go 9. Sure.
Tightly packed.
And indeed it is. Square format works for it. It's just dark. It feels very dark to me. And sometimes that's the point of an image. But here, since I don't, like we have all these foreground occluding objects inside of it, but I don't see past that to something or about something. Instead, it just reads as, yeah, there's a lot of grass, it's tightly packed, and it's a little bit dark. I don't see a sense of what am I supposed to be pointing at or examining here. And as a result, I'm not sure exactly what the impact needs to be or where I'm supposed to be looking at this. And I wish that I could. I don't get a sense of where I'm supposed to be going inside of this image. It's a 7 for me. I mean, you technically got right focus. I think exposure is dark, but I'm not sure where I'm headed with it.
And our final image of the night. This is Rosette in March.
The color is really beautiful. I like that. Focus is really good. But your crop, I think, is going to be stronger if you go square and fill the frame entirely with the green rosette. I think that's going to be more impactful with the image. We've seen some other images that are similar to that. It is a classic crop and composition for a reason. It works, right? It's really good. This is lovely. And I know that that means getting rid of some of the reds at the top and bottom of the image. I get that, but I think coming in is going to be okay because we're cropping off the leaves on the left and the right. And if we get in closer, then losing some of those leaves is no longer a big problem. But as it is, we're cropping off part of the subject. So I think the square is going to be the better crop. As it stands, it's an 8, but I think you could come in closer and you could elevate it.
Okay. So we have a few people to talk to on the 9s and 10s. And Contours of Cold is from Gary Witt.
Okay, I'm one of those people that when he said, I don't like abstract, swallowed hard, because I've been in this club a long time and I've heard a lot of judges who have the exact same opinion. And so I learned long ago not to put abstracts up for a competition image. There's a, you know, you may love them, you may get lots of compliments from other people, but you just don't put them up because you don't know the judge and you don't know if he's going to be like Joe, which is fine. But in this case, I just love this image so much because I thought it's abstract, but there is a focal point in this image, which is that little particle of ice. So that's the only reason I would have put an image of an abstract image up in a competition, because in this case, I've heard so many judges say, I don't know where my eye's supposed to go. I don't know what my focal point is. And to me, it's the brightest thing on the image. So that's why I put this image in. So number 1. Number 2, I played with this in black and white over and over again. And I love the fact that Joe caught the fact that this was a really beautiful deep blue. And that's the only reason it stayed in color, because it would have been an obvious black and white. But I just thought that richness of the blue was what made the image. I also thought that that white line kind of gave you a entree point in that kind of brought you from the, and I spent a lot of time with dodging and burning to try to bring that white into the middle of the image and then to that white crystal thing. So that I worked really hard trying to get all around what might be a judge's opinion about a abstract with nothing to focus your eye on. So I'm sharing all of that because that was my mindset. And I appreciate that if Joe gave it a 9, it's probably a 10 if he doesn't like abstracts.
There's a handicap though. That's right.
Well, you made all the right choices, Gary.
Thank you.
Through the Trees to the Sky. This is from Stuart Little.
Yeah, Joe, thanks a lot for your comments. I appreciate it. And, you know, the most obvious reason that there's no real point of focus on this is because I used a lens ball to take the picture. So it's going to be naturally distorted. And originally I was holding that with my hand, with one hand, and trying to take the picture with my camera. And what I did was I photoshopped out my hand and then used a round crop on that to get it with a black background.
Cool idea.
And it might have worked as a black and white as well, just want to say.
Yeah. It's just an interesting take on things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fibonacci Feast. This is from Joy Lindholm. Joy said that we have a lot of sunflowers in bloom in our garden this time of year, and I was struck by the pattern of the center of this one for this month's competition, as sunflower disc florets often follow a golden spiral or Fibonacci spiral pattern. The green metallic sweet bee landed to collect pollen at just the right time, so I was grateful for the extra pop. This is a stack of 2 images blended together in Photoshop. Great result. Galaxy of Light is from Allie Green. And Allie travels a lot also. She said this dandelion was seeding and turned into black and white for dramatic effect. Causeway of Myths is from Ben Hernandez.
Joe, not necessarily about this image, but a previous image. I don't think I've ever been as excited to get a 7 than from you. You've been assertive. You know, you know what you like, but the amount of knowledge that you've imparted, at least me tonight, it's certainly appreciate it. So thank you very much. I appreciate your comments on this image, and you know, if we could vote for one of the, if we could vote for the best presenter or the best judge of the year, you would get my #1 vote.
Yeah, I think that would be a unanimous vote from everybody. Dancing Couples is from Oz Fenninger.
What did you say?
Oz is just traveling.
What did he say about the image?
I'm getting to that. Give me a little minute, man. Okay. All right. He said, this is a detail of a round street light pole along a busy street on the outskirts of Geneva, Switzerland. The pattern was created by weathering of the aluminum pole. Contrast was adjusted, and there was some slight dodging and burning to enhance the image. And the image was rotated 90 degrees, and it was shot on an iPhone.
I believe it all.
I thought this was like some kind of, you know, hieroglyph or petroglyph on the side of a stone wall or something, but yeah, it's a light pole. Amazing. Leave it to Oz. These few, this Shadows and Reflections and Mist is from Steve Kearns. And I don't believe Steve's still on here. The utility trailer is from Steve Wilton. I thought Steve was still, well, I know we have a lot of people who dropped off of Zoom because we're running so long, but the Going Down is from Stuart Little.
Yeah, this is a in Glasgow, Scotland, and it's the lighthouse tower, which is not really on the coast, but there it is. It's right there. It's really cool looking down at that thing.
And how far over the railing were you hanging?
Not too far because I didn't want to drop anything.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a cool image, Stuart. Very nice.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you guys can turn the lights on at Lone Tree now. We are done. Well, thank you to everybody who hung in there. I know we went really long this evening, and I'm glad that nobody came to kick people out of Lone Tree. Joe, thank you ever so much. You've heard comments from a number of people here already, but we really do appreciate the time and effort that you put into commentary on the images. We will definitely have you back if you'll have us.
Thanks. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm Gary. Nice to meet you.
All right. Well, thank you
Thanks,
again,
Joe.
everyone, and we will end it here. Take care, everybody.
Good night, guys. Thank you.